Hey, how's it going? This is Steve from RateMyFuneral.com. Basically, come on to make an announcement. Never going to do any more tutorials, going to shut the site down, going to give up on the whole lot. Just bored with it. Sorry about him. He's an idiot. Hey, how's it going? This is Roy from RateMyFuneral.com. That was rate, by the way. We're going to do a tutorial, typography style tutorial this time. Not really done one of these before. Thought we'd give it a go. I found this picture on a website somewhere. I've no idea where. I thought it was brilliant. I think that's really cool. I love the concept. It's just really cool. And yeah, if I knew who made it, I would credit them. But honestly, sorry, I've no idea. If you made it, nice one. So basically, this is what we're going to make. I'm going to do it in a kind of parametric way so that you can easily change the text itself and the font further down the line, which is easy for the main of it. Unfortunately, I have yet to find a way of making it so that the screws and everything follow parametrically, which would be really nice. I've tried a bunch of different ideas and ways of doing it, but they never quite sit right. So perhaps if you maybe know a way, you can let me know, and I'll add it to the tutorial. That'd be brilliant. Right, okay, so let's start off somewhere in Cinema 4D. First thing we're going to want to do is create a 2. Like I say, this is completely... the point of this is that we can change it, but I want to make it so that... I want to just build it based on that picture first. So text, spline, there we go. And I'm just going to make that a 2 for now. The font, I really love this font that they've used here with this kind of thing. So I've had a hunt around through my fonts. It just happens I've got one that's quite similar called Ravi. It's just not a million miles away. It's a little bit fatter and some of the edges are slightly different, but it's kind of cool. You can get fonts from dafont.com. That's a great place to go and get fonts. Yeah, it's a really good site. Okay, so we've made our text spline. We're going to build this in a few different sections just to keep it so we've got a bit more control over it. You could do it in a 2 and turn caps off and stuff like that, but I found a slightly nicer way of doing this. So this is going to be the back. So I'm just going to put that into an extrude NURBS. So with the text highlighted, hold Alt and select extrude NURBS, and you can see that's already added that. And I'm going to reduce the movement down to 1 because we only need it thin. This text I'm going to grab and hold Control and make a copy of. And now we've got 2 splines, and this one I'm going to use a SweepNURBS for. Hold Alt, select SweepNURBS, there we go. And if you're not familiar with a SweepNURB, basically a SweepNURB takes one shape of a spline and sort of sends it down the path of another spline. So we're going to use the shape of the 2 as our path, and then I'm going to create a rectangle out of the spline list there, and we're going to dump that in the middle, and that's going to use that as the path. Now obviously if you do that with that big, you're going to have something that looks a little odd, kind of like that, which we're not going to be using like that. So what we need to do is change the size of our rectangle a little bit. So the width, that needs to come right down. See, and now you can kind of see what's going on now. We've gone a bit Beatles. So the width is probably going to be 1. If you look here, you can see this, it kind of goes a bit funky there. So 1 centimeter for the width, and then probably about 50, maybe 60. There we go, 60 for the height. And you can see there we've now got our nice edge. And the beauty here, the reason why we've done it using this is now if I click this rounding button, bang, you see this, we get this lovely edge, which gives us nice specular highlights and stuff, so that's great. At the moment our extrude is currently sitting in the middle though, so we just need to move that to the back. So we've got the move tool selected, we'll just move that to the back of it, there we go. Awesome. It's probably a little too long actually, I don't know. Yeah, let's just rejig this a bit. SweepNURBS rectangle, so maybe not 60 but 50. You know what I'm going to do, actually leave that. I'm going to grab the 2 texts and hit T and just scale them up a little bit. there we go. Let's just move the position slightly, so I'm just going to move that back like that. There we go. Cool. Okay. Yeah, no, I'm quite happy with that now. Excellent. Right, okay. So that is pretty much the back plastic bit done. The next bit we want to do is the glass. Now, when I look at this, I'm seeing a specific edge here, like a slightly rounded edge. So I'm actually going to use the same method again to create that. So I'm going to grab these two, but I'm just going to name these so that we know what things are. So this one is the plastic back, and this one is the plastic edge. There we go. If we name things, then we know what we're doing. To make a copy, like before, hold Control and drag them like that, and we'll get a copy. And we'll just move these forward slightly. I'm going to just change these names as well. So this will be glass back, and this one will be glass or gallus edge. Lovely. Right. Okay. So our glass edge is obviously far too wide at the moment. So we'll reduce that from 60 to about 20, and our back is obviously 1 at the moment. So we're going to put that up. I'm going to put it up to 18, and then just go into the top view, and grab that glass back there and drag it so that it sits. I'm just going to eyeball it so it sits about in the middle, and then that'll give us that nice little dimple shape around the side. So there we go. If we have a look at that, yeah, that's cool. I might make it a little bit fatter if I can get away with it though. So width, if we put that up to maybe say 2, and then our radius of our rounding we can put up to 1. There we go, and that gives us, yeah, that's cool, spot on. All right, super. And these two I'm just going to move away slightly. There we go. Cool. Right, now in order to change this text, if you want to, at the moment you have to kind of go into each one and select the text for each one. It's a bit of a pain, so I'm just going to take you through something using a bit of espresso to make it so it's a much neater way of doing it. So we'll grab the lot of them, press Alt and G, and that puts them into a null, and we'll call this main text, like so. All right, and then basically on that main text we're going to go to user data and do manage user data. The two things I want to be able to control are the text itself, so what's written. So we'll choose name text. Data type will change from float, we're going to change to string. Okay, and then we're going to add another piece of data there. We're going to call this one font, because we're going to change the font as well, and you can see there is one for font, so we'll have that there. It's a weird little bug. If you press on that, it just dings. I'm not quite sure whether that's to do with my machine or what, so I don't know. So we'll leave that default as Seago UI for now. Okay, lovely. All right, so we've got our things in there. I'm just going to set these now so that this doesn't all go wrong when we link it all up. So we've set to Ravi and the text is 2. Now obviously this isn't doing anything yet because I haven't linked it to the text bits yet. Now this is the easiest way to do it. Now this may look a little complicated, but it's not, trust me, it's really, really easy. So basically right click on your null, cinema tags, and down the bottom there is Espresso. That gives you this window here. What we're going to do is we're going to drag the main text in there. So this is basically what we're using to control. So we're going to add those user datas that we just added. So click on this little tab, user data text and user data font. There we go. So these are the two things that we want to change something else. And those other things that we want to change are the text from each one. So we basically just drag each one's text box into our Espresso thing. I actually zoned out a little bit there. I'm really sorry. I'm just going to delete these last 3 and do them again because I might have done them correctly, but I'm not sure if I did. Right, and then we'll make these a little bit bigger each, like this, just so we can see what we're doing. Yeah, my mouse is being a bit clunky. Okay. And basically on each one, we're going to go to Object Properties for the little blue tab, and we want to be able to change the text, and we want to be able to change the font. And we just repeat. Text. font, text, font, text, font. Wow, that was enjoyable. I reckon even the ostrich from Family Guy would have enjoyed that.
Ha ha!
Right, so text into each one. We just drag it from the text like that. There we go. And then the font, same thing. And all this time we're making that lovely pretty pattern in there. You can keep it all neat if you want, but we don't need to right now. So that's it, that's done. That's that bit of espresso. So we can close that down. Go back to our main text, and here where it says 2, we can change that to RMF. And you can see that changes the lot, and it keeps it all parametric and nice. We can change the font if we want. Look at that, there we go. So we've got a nice bit of controls, a nice bit of control over it. So you can, when you're done, you can save the project and reopen it and change it and use it for different things. So that's cool. Right, that's the first section done. On to part 2. We are going to put a scene in the picture. We have this nice grey kind of infinity studio or something like that, and it's nicely lit. Just so happens, I don't know if you're aware of this, but I have a product on the site called Infidio. We're going to use this right now. If you don't have Infidio, you can just set up the scene and you can set up your lights and do what you need to do. But I like this. This is why I made this. It just makes everything much, much easier, much quicker. So the first thing I notice when I add Infidio, which is my Infinity Studio, the 2 is in the floor. So I need to lift the text slightly. In the original, it's actually hovering just above the ground. So we'll do the same sort of thing and have it just hovering. If we just quickly hit the render button, we can see kind of how this is looking. Infidio Pro has the lighting built into it, so this is all the Infidio's default lighting. So you can see we are getting some shadows, and it's sitting in its Infinity Studio. So there's a couple of things that I want to change before I go too much further. The first thing I'm going to do is going to change this aspect ratio. So if we just hit render settings there, and under output we change this from standard to 16 by 9. It just, with the shape of my screen, it just makes a lot more sense for it to fill out the screen. What was I doing? Making a change to the color, maybe? Right, the background. Let's start with that anyway. It's a kind of dark grey color, so I'm going to go for a grey from a subtle bit of yellow, just gentle, and into a kind of almost black, but not quite. Something like that. So that gives us our grey background. The other thing I want to do is just adjust something. No, right, okay. Let's make the textures quickly. Right, texture. So white plastic. I'm not going to spend too much time on the white plastic because of the fact that I'm basically going to select white. Turn the specular off, put the reflection on, put that down to about half, go to texture and do Fresnel and put that down to about half, and that's some nice shiny plastic going on there. And we'll attach that to the back there. You see that's gone on the plastic edge, and we also want it on the plastic back. There we go. Right, so we've got our white. The next bit we want is the glass. Now glass is a bit of a bugger in Cinema because it does hit your render time. But one thing I found is if you change to the physical renderer, then it's much quicker to work with. So if you've got 13 or above, you can use the physical renderer here. If not, you have to stick with the standard one, and it's a little bit slow. It's not the end of the world. So basically, we'll add this, and then I'll show you the difference between the two. So color doesn't matter, specular we'll leave on, transparency, can turn that on, and set the refraction to 1.1. There we go, so we can see that's reflecting nicely. In our specular, I'm actually going to set a texture here, a color like that. I think white will do, and the height I'm just going to make a little bit higher. There we go. So I'm just going to do that. It's just going to add a little bit of a haze to our glass, which should look a bit nicer. So we'll add one to the inside there on the glass back, and then we'll add one to the glass edge. Cool. So if we just have a quick look, first render. See, now this is because we're using glass now, so you can see that our render time has just been dramatically hit. So that's a bit of a shame. So instead of rendering that one out, I'm going to change the render settings from standard to physical, and change the sampler to progressive for while we work on it. And if we hit that, you can see that's kind of gives us an idea of what, you know, how we're getting on much quicker. And the way the progressive renderer works on the physical renderer is that it goes through it basically over and over again. So this is now in pass 2, and each time it goes through it, it just tidies it up and makes it, you know, a little bit better or whatever. So that's cool. It's not bad. That's starting out all right, actually. Let's see. The next thing we're going to want to do is set the. I'm going to turn on ambient occlusion because I like that. That's going to hit those shadows down the bottom there. And in my video, I'm going to go into lighting and go to the fill light and turn on its shadow there. Let's just have another look at that. Look, that's looking much more stylish. There we go. That looks cool. We've got some nice highlights going on in that glass. One thing I do want to do is see a bit more from my lighting. So I'm just going to stick a camera, hit camera, there we go. We'll leave that there and we'll just zoom out. Ooh, there we go, and we can kind of see our lighting. This looks a bit messy, but this is because of OpenGL issues. So at the moment the two, it's been a little bit flooded, but I'm going to bring the, if I go to the studio, go to lighting, hair light, and take the hair light height and pull that right down because I want that to show up. I'm also going to make it a lot wider because I want to get a streak of light across there. Also we can pull in, what am I doing? In the key lights we can pull that in a bit. I'm going to add a bit of colour to the key light. I'm going to actually put a little bit of yellow in over that side. If we just go in and have a look again, you can see the changes. That's probably a little too much. Doesn't reflect the settings properly yet, obviously, until we render, but you'll see what I mean. The fill light, I'm going to add a bit of blue to that just to contrast that. And I'm also going to pull the fill light in a bit. So that's there, so we'll just put that to about there. Okay, so let's just have a quick look and see how we're looking now. So at the moment there's far too much yellow in there, but I am liking the blue is kind of tinting off this glass here. So that looks pretty cool. So we need to fix the yellow, turn that right down, maybe even pull the brightness out of that a little bit, and the fill light, I'm going to pull the brightness down about 96, and the overhead hair light, let's just have a quick look. See that's, you see this line here, that's from that hair light. We've got this nice little swoosh, so we're getting some nice reflections going on there and some nice colour going on. So that's great. Okay, so that's all building the text. Now you can use that and go in and change the text. You know, have it say RMF, something like that. Zoom out a bit. And then set your scene around something like that. You can put things inside of the you can put things inside of the letter areas and stuff, and maybe have things glow, use a bit of global illumination, all of that sort of thing. But there's kind of a lot to experiment with on this. This is I just like the design and the idea. But now that we've kind of got that bit done, like I say, it's maybe a good idea to save that one and then it's usable for other things. I'm just going to go back to the 2, and the thing that we've got here, if we look at our picture, is that we've got these screws going into the little holders. So we're going to quickly add those. Turn the camera off and zoom in a bit. There we go. We'll go and have a look. Okay. So just while I'm working on this, because the lighting's getting a bit flooded. Oops. I was going to turn that yellow down slightly more. It's a bit too much. In the lighting, I can go to my light switches and just switch those off for a minute so I can see what I'm doing. And the next thing we want to add is this little cylinder. So the way I like to do these things is in a different window. So I'll get the cylinder to sort of where I want it. Something like about there, and shrink that down. That was T, by the way. Shrink that down. Maybe worth going into the front view. There we go. We can see this now. We can move that somewhere like there. Shrink that down a bit more. In the top version, we can put the height up a bit and place that there. And that's sitting about on the edge, so it's probably a little too much, so we'll just bring that in a little bit. I don't want it quite going to the edge. Okay. And then basically that cylinder, I'll make a copy, Control C this time, and then we go to New, and then just paste that there. And we can see that that's sitting there like that. Alright, now this is the front of it, if I remember rightly, if we just go back to this one. So the blue is going out towards the back. So this is the front of it. So I'm going to make the cylinder editable by pressing C, and then I'm going to sort of put in a hole into the end. So over here we're going to select the select tool and then polygon mode. Just press U, L, and then click there, and then that selects all of those for you. We're then going to press I, and we're going to pull that in a little bit. And then we're going to use the bevel tool, which is the one I can never remember the shortcut for, so we'll select it from there. Mesh, Create Tools, Bevel. And we're going to push that inside like that. Now obviously that's opened outwards, which we don't want. So this inner offset we can change like so. Something like that. Do you know what? Undo. I'm not going to go in quite so far. I'm going to bring that in something like that, and then I'm going to press D, which gives us the extrude, and I'm going to send that further down. There we go. I want to grab just to give these a little bit of extra something. I'm going to grab the knife tool, which is K, change it to loop selection, and I'm going to cut just a little notch on the end there. You got to select point mode or something like that to do this. Oh, and it jumped just as I went to do it. Undo that. And it did it again to me. Why is it doing that? There we go. Alright, so we've just got this little bit, and then we're going to go back to polygon mode, select the selection tool, UL again, and that we can grab that loop there, hold shift and grab that one there. Alright, and I'm just going to go up to select and do set selection. Cool, we're going to keep that specific little bit, and you'll see why in a moment. Actually, we're going to go do it now. So now that we've done this, we'll grab this cylinder, press Control C, go back to our other thing. We can delete this cylinder and press Control V, and that one goes in. I'm going to select the white plastic and put it onto that cylinder, and then I'm going to make a copy of the white plastic by holding Control and dragging. Double click on that, go to the color, and I'm going to make this a black plastic just by changing the colors to black. The reflection might need to come down a little bit as well. There we go. Yeah, that's it. Super. Okay, and I'm going to put that on the cylinder as well, and then just grab this little tag here, which was the selection, and drag that down to selection there. And what you can see that's done is it's just given it a little black tip. So it's just a little bit of detail that just looks nice. The next thing we need to do is create the holes that go through. Now there's no nice way of doing this, but so we're gonna have to use a bool. The cylinder, we're going to do the same thing again, but we'll grab a cylinder again, place it as a child of this cylinder, and then if you come down here, make sure you're on object mode, and just zero all of these out, hit enter, and that appears in there. We need to change it to +Z, and there we go. You can see where this is going. Press T, shrink that down till it's around about the width of the screws. And then we'll just make that longer. There we go. That's going to sit over here. Do you know what? We're going to actually want this as well in a moment, so I don't want to completely lose this yet. But I'm going to just pull that back in because it doesn't need to be as long as that. Basically, it just needs to go through the glass bit. So we're going to call that one cutter. This one we're going to call screw hole. Okay, and then our cutter is there. In our screw hole, I'm going to make a copy of the cutter, hold control like that, and stretch that out quite a bit, but I'm going to reduce the radius to 0.5 like so, and then finally we need to create the screw. Same thing again. We'll take the cutter with us because that will do for that, and we'll go back to our other window, copy, okay, and we'll press paste. There we go. We can see we've got our cutter there. We will have that, make it about the size that a screw would be. Reduce the height to about there. Is that about right? Yeah, that looks good to me. Go back to the select tool. Pull this right back this way. Just call this screw. Okay. And the thing we need to do here, firstly, we'll give it a head. So back to point mode. Make sure it's editable by pressing C. Press K for the knife. It's still on loop, so that's fine. We want to cut it probably about there, and it's doing that jumping thing again. There we go. Go back to polygon mode. UL. Grab that and hold shift and grab that one as well. Actually, cancel that, undo that, only grab this edge one, sorry. Then hit D for the extrude tool and just pull that out a bit. There we go. That's wonderful. Press UL again, click in the middle there. Now press I, and you can shrink that down a bit like that, and then press D and you can send that in. You can spend the time and make a nice crosshead or whatever you want to do, but that's just for the distance that we're going to be away from that's fine. Finally, we just want to give these a kind of screw edge, so we're going to just do a real quick helix, place that into the screw, make sure you're on object mode and zero that out. Okay, and then we just need to shrink this helix right down so it's start radius, just set that to 4, and then the end radius, set that to 4 as well. Move that to the back of the screw like that, and set its height, pull that right back like that. There we go. And we can do end angle, we can put that up and just get some notches in there. Obviously that's just a spline, so if you render you won't see anything, so we need to use a SweepNURBS in order to make it give it some geometry. So SweepNURBS, and then we'll create a four-side. Place the four-side in there, and as you can see that's just kind of made this, which is not quite what we want. So we'll just reduce the size, 200 to 2, 100 to 1, and that gives a better idea of what we're looking at. And that looks a bit funny, but that's because it's kind of the way it's banking round. So if we turn off banking, set it to parallel movement, we can see that's getting a bit closer. Set the helix, bring the size of that, so 3.5, 3.5. These numbers aren't guaranteed to be definite. This is whatever suits and works for you. We can just put this end angle up a bit. There we go. Cool. We just need to move that in a bit. I'm not spending too much time over this because of the fact that you're not really even going to see these things. So, right, cool. Okay, so there's our screw made nice and easily. So we'll copy that screw and we'll take that back into our main one here. There we go. How's that looking at the moment? So, yeah, that's pretty cool. It's probably, that screw's actually a bit hefty, I think. I don't know. I might just shrink it down a bit. Just grab it, press T, and shrink it a bit. There we go. Okay. So the next thing we're going to want to do is the cutter. We can't. Hang on. Why have we got two cutters now? That's the long one. That's the cutter. So that's the guide. So we'll name that guide. Screw hole. That's that one, and then that's the screw. Cool. Okay. So the screw will give the black plastic to. The guide, I want to create just one more here, texture. We're going to do transparency, something like 95, turn the specular off, maybe a bit more than that, maybe 92, and this screw guide, if you right click, cinema tags, compositing, we're just going to tell them not to cast or receive shadows, because this is that kind of line. You can see there's a line going through, so I don't want that to be casting shadows. Right, so that's all of that bit. So the cutter we'll keep for in a bit. All of those bits here will create a null, G, Alt G, and call it screw bits, like so. Okay. And then the guide, I didn't actually assign that texture to, like so. There we go. The plastic glass back is actually glass middle. That should be called. So the glass middle, that's the thing we need to be cutting with our cutter. So this is going to get a bit confusing, but we're going to place the cutter inside of the main null. We're going to go to here and select ball with Alt, and that's put the cutter inside of the ball, and we're now going to put the glass middle into that. Now what that's done, you can see there, is that's actually cut the hole for us, but it uses the texture that's on the glass on the cutter to texture it. So because there isn't one, you can see it. So if we set that, there we go. We just set that texture onto there. Right, that is the first step. We now need to just duplicate them and place them around the place. So the screw bits, the best way to do it is to create an instance, and do that by doing with screw bits selected. You can select instance from here. There we go. Now we go to move mode, and let's do this in the front view. We'll just place a load of these about. So we'll place maybe one there. Control C, Control V. We'll place maybe one there. Control C, Control V. Maybe one over in the middle there. Control C, Control V. Maybe one down here. Control C, Control V. One there. Control C, Control V. One there. Control C, Control V. And we'll put one there. Okay, so we've just put a few of those on. Now the cutter, because that's in this little bit, we can't do it in quite the same way. So what we do is just grab that, hold Control, and put one into each of the instances, like this. There we go. And then each one we just zero out. So we just go down to here, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0. 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0. Two more to go. 0. Finally, 0, 0, 0. Cool. Okay, so then we grab all of these back again. So hold control and select each one and bung them into the ball. Now, that won't work like that. We need to actually group them together. So select them all, press Alt G, call that cutter. But what that should have done is each one should have, there we go, yeah, you can see that. It's got each one's got a hole and the little guide going through it. So while that bit's not parametric, that's just a relatively easy way of putting that all together. Okay, so we've built it all. We've looked at rendering it. We've added these extra little bits. We've done all of that. You now need to spend a lot of time. I mean, because this, I will say that the original image, which I've actually closed. Bear with me a second. I'll just reopen this. Here we go. The lighting on this is done really, really well. This is really spot on. It's possibly global illumination, I'm not sure, but it's definitely been done really, really well. It's really nice. So with a bit of time spent, you know, you can make it really, really nice. Within video, all the settings are there for you, and it's all sort of ready to tweak and fiddle with and set up and all of that. You know, we can turn on the reflective floor. That might look quite nice. Controls, enable reflective floor, to turn that up a bit, maybe a little bit of blurriness. In the original, I don't know if maybe there's a wall going up the back there. Again, in video has that, so we can turn on edge mode, the wall, enable a curve, just make that a bit bigger so it goes over there. Move the text and all of its bits. Oh no, there. Move that sort of back towards that wall a bit, and you know, maybe have a little play with it like that. There we go. You can see we've got this nice reflection coming from the floor. Add a bit of depth of field, all sorts of stuff you can do. So, oops. Anyway, there you go. That's definitely something for you to be playing with. I enjoyed that. It was a lot of fun. I really like this. It's cool. Yeah, so hopefully you've enjoyed this tutorial. Try to keep it a bit shorter than normal. Not done too badly. If you are interested in video, the studio, you can go to the website, and there's stuff there on all. You know, you can buy it from there. Yeah, hopefully. Maybe see you again. If you do any of these things, then I'd love to see them. Post them on the site, on the Facebook page, the Twitter, and all of that kind of rubbish. That'd be great. All right, mate. Why did I say mate? Who am I? It's like I'm talking to just you. Yeah, all right, mate. Yeah. Sorry, I'm rabbiting now. It's been going too long. I really need a drink. All right, guys. Catch you later. Bye.